Okay, looks like we're live. Got things off and running. Just do the little housekeeping things to get things ready while I wait for people to roll up. If you're watching this back later, hi. This is our special time, just you and me. No one sees this unless they watch it back later. Oh wait, am I slightly early? I think I'm slightly early. Hi, Miss Foxification. And hey, Frankie. Yes, so hopefully less internet problems tonight. And hey, Tara. Yeah, get things off and running and see how everyone's Thursday is rolling into the weekend. I did see your post, Frank, that your weekend's just started from what you were saying. All right for some, all right for some, yes. Sacrifice something to the NBN gods in the hope of getting a good result. We are at the mercy, the whims of the system, and I think maybe the problem was worked out that everyone was using internet connections on Tuesday night. I was doing this live stream. The young Angry's playing, or young Ms. Angry playing an online game, and Mrs. Angry watching Netflix. Maybe it was just too many people in my house doing stuff at the same time. But there are so many variables. Whenever you have a connection issue, there are so many variables. It could be anything that's causing the problem. So we just soldier on, really. Hi, Catherine. Just started talking now, so you haven't really missed anything. Frank, you were told Malcolm was Tony's minister for fucking up broadband. Yeah, it was a sad and sordid story. The previous Labor government had a plan for a very high-end fibre network all around Australia. Was a great plan. Was a very significant piece of infrastructure for Australia. Would have meant a lot to the community. Would have meant a lot to business. See, politics being politics, the then opposition, who are now the government, they couldn't acknowledge that the government had a good idea, particularly because it was spending public money on infrastructure, something they're ideologically opposed to. But mostly it was just the nature of government. And this probably would have worked the other way as well if the positions were swapped. You get this annoying thing in politics that people go, well, the proposal of those on the other side is wrong by definition, and I'm going to fight against it. And that doesn't matter if it's actually a good idea. They're the opposite team. You got to vote against them. And there were several problems with how it was set up by the then Minister Conroy. He got too adversarial with the major phone company, Telstra, who owned a lot of the cables, like the infrastructure it was going to run on. And he was too dismissive of them. And so a lot of people say Telstra deliberately slowed down the rollout. Telstra deliberately nobbled the rollout of the national broadband network, the NBN, that Conroy had planned. But when not long after, I think it was actually less than a year after the rollout started, there was a federal election which Labor lost and the coalition came in. So their first point of order, well, not necessarily their first point, but a first point of the order was to destroy the NBN. Apparently Rupert Murdoch doesn't like it either. and Telstra didn't like it. And they also wanted to make the previous government look bad, so they ensured the NBN plan put forward by the previous minister would fail, and they nobbled it. And they said, "No, we're not going to do it." He says, "We're going to do something different." And their proposal's fucking stupid. Hasn't cost less; it's cost more than projected. But by the same token, is obviously Labor's projections might have been conservative, and their plan might have cost more. But they've basically fucked up the NBN. They haven't saved money, and they've set Australia back a decade. So fuck them. And yes, Frank, it was actually Malcolm Turnbull as Minister for Communications under Tony Abbott who was responsible for destroying the NBN. It's bullshit, and we all suffer because of it. It sucks. Red Common, you think based on the title of my video, which is "What's the final solution for racists?" Traditional Soviet gulag. You also want them to lift 500-kilogram tree logs as hard labor punishment. That is very old school. That is definitely old school. Phila and Sela, Heidi, hi to you too as well. And yes, so certainly traditional gulag punishment is a possibility. Red Common. Yes, Tara. I think almost without a doubt Labor's plan was flawed, but the Libs deliberately screwed it. And I'll always be more than a tad annoyed at Conroy because he got so adversarial, said he wasn't going to work with Telstra. Fuck those guys. They think they own it, they don't. And so Telstra got adversarial, and they slowed it down. See, if Conroy's plan had been sufficiently advanced before his government lost power, the Libs couldn't really have destroyed it because too much of the infrastructure would already be there. But because the rollout had been bollocksed, not much of it had been done, so the Libs could get away with stopping the whole process. And a reasonable amount of that rests with Stephen Conroy, quite honestly. And hello, Toby. How are you doing? When I talk this much, I'm going to have the occasional sip to lubricate my throat. It gets a bit dry from all the talking. But, that's a thing I do, talking. Not one to complain. So we'll soldier on. And yes, of course, it's why I have a drink. It's a Kentucky-style lemonade. Everyone always asks, "What do you do?" So I'll call that's a Kentucky-style lemonade that I'm drinking this evening. What color does it look like? It's always that running joke that too many of my drinks look like a urine sample. And this one doesn't really, unless there's something real. It looks like dirty tap water, actually. Yes, if your urine sample looks like that, see a doctor, please, because really that's not good. That would not be good at all. So I will just drink my dirty tap water. Maybe maybe I'll change the name of it. Instead of calling it Kentucky Lemonade, it's just dirty tap water. I was going to look something up. When you get an idea in your head and you think, that's a thing, isn't it? I need to look that up on the internet. I thought so. A cocktail called a gravedigger. I was sure I'd heard of one, and they came up because of another conversation today. This thing says the ingredients for a gravedigger are rum and whiskey. Okay. Let me quickly. It must be more than just rum and whiskey. That's not. No, apparently it's just rum and whiskey. Okay, that's a shot. they call that that's a shot, not an actual cocktail. Okay, here's a different one. Someone who seems to have it in an actual cocktail glass. What? And yeah, these people are all pitching it as a Halloween drink, grave digger. Oh my God, so many goddamn things popped up on this website. I hate that. Okay, there's lots of pictures, lots of talking. Okay. Oh, these people say cider and whiskey topped with ginger ale. I don't really like ginger ale, so I'd probably just go all cider, which would make it much more alcoholic than this proposed one. So it's just like these guys say cider, whiskey, and ginger ale. You see, there's a lot of others. Okay, here's another one. I'm going to see if this is the same. It's interesting. A lot of the websites use the same meat for it. Okay, this one, God, this is completely different. This is tequila, mezcal, sherry, pear liqueur. God, that sounds deadly. That sounds absolutely deadly. Tequila and mezcal, sherry and pear liqueur. Damn, that's yeah. No, that sounds downright dangerous. Feeler and Silly, you're a big ginger ale fan. You'll excuse me for doing that. Yes, I should be using an ad blocker. I notice everyone telling me I should use an ad blocker. Yeah, I tried again. Oh, well, websites need to make money, but Jesus, when they do all these intrusive things, they're just asking for you to use web blockers. Tobias, you're asking how AZ is. I have not spoken to him since the update I gave on Tuesday. Probably give him a call tomorrow, maybe, see how he is. Tara, you're a beer drinker. I'm looking for beer now. And see, I don't like beer either. I don't like ginger ale. I don't like beer. If I was going to drink, like my beer equivalent is cider. Oh my God, Ed Rosiga, you're having problems there. You know you have too much free time on your hands when you start having an existential crisis every 3 seconds. Wow, I had a thing earlier today where I was really overthinking something. Not quite an existential crisis, but I found myself really overthinking something. That actually happened just before coming on here. You know, I thought of something someone said the other day. I went, wait, what did they mean? Were they trying to make a point? I missed it. And I thought, no, fucking forget it. It's over. Hey, animals, how you doing? This foxification, put your belief in paying your way. Yes, that's a fair point. The idea of paying your way should be secondary to privacy and security. Yeah, I think you're basically right. You're saying malware like the coin miner even gets into the big name advertisers like YouTube and Google and DoubleClick, and it does. They all make mistakes and let malware get put into advertising they allow. It's such a hostile environment. Hey, again, how old is everyone here? Who remembers when things first started getting commercial on the internet? Because, of course, the internet its prototype was ARPANET, which was for the military, and then it went out to educational institutions. And then in the 90s, it started being possible for non-government, non-university people to sign up commercially to get access, dial-up, and there was, of course, no commerce on the internet in the early days. There was like no security either. But a little bit of trivia. The first advertising on the internet Wired magazine came up with the banner ad. Yeah, they started putting an advertising banner at the top or bottom of articles that they put online. So Wired actually started advertising on the internet. Oh, Toby, tell CK we also he's sexy too. Catherine, you almost fell over. What was that about? Yes, you should definitely sit down and watch if you're having troubles. So your wife was on a freelancer site and someone asked for a job. Yeah, and if you clicked it, you went to a spam site in the Netherlands. Yeah, yeah, that's really dodgy. Yes. Ah, yes, misfoxification. Good old days of Usenet. And yes, you could find intelligent conversation without trolls, but there were still trolls. There were people just going around causing trouble all over the place. Catherine, you think your first time on the internet was Christmas '95? Probably couldn't pin it down that precisely. I, I got online at friends' places a couple of times. Uh, uh, they were uni students, and I was getting access to the internet via the university. When I signed up for the internet, I signed up with one of the first commercial ISPs in Australia, and theoretically, the entity behind it still exists, TPG, which was an acronym which back in the 90s stood for Total Peripherals Group. They sold computer peripherals, and they were one of the first companies to set themselves up as a commercial ISP. And I think it was some computer show somewhere they had a stall, and I signed up with them. And I stayed with them for quite a while till I went broadband, actually, and then I swapped to Telstra. Sorry, I was saying there's a lot of porn on Usenet. Yeah, but it was only images, and they took forever to download. Could you imagine just waiting for an image to download took a couple of minutes, and we just accepted it because it was a new and magical thing, and it was worth waiting a couple of minutes for an image to download so you could see it. Video was like even standalone computers couldn't really play video. That was a huge breakthrough when you could play video on a computer for the first time, like a home PC. And it was always custom files, nothing as simple as what we have now with discs and whatnot. But yeah, I remember some proprietary video systems, some of the first things available. They're very silly in retrospect, but we take it all for granted now that you can see images. Like there used to be all these different formats that a lot of computers simply couldn't decode. It was a real issue back in the 80s and 90s, computers just not being able to read particular files. Yeah. Musical aviator. You're on a late shift. You're still at work. Damn, that sucks. Yes. Well, all us old timers reminiscing about dial-up, how you had to use your phone line, and if someone picked up the phone, it was all over. Or if you had to make a phone call, you had to disconnect from the internet. And the further you were away from the exchange, the worse the signal was. Like over the copper lines, it would degrade and get slower and slower. So, but yeah, we just accepted it because it was new and mysterious. Oh yes, Feeler and Sealer downloading MP3s from Napster and whatnot, where a 4-minute song would take 15 or 20 minutes to download. Yes. Oh, Frank, that was the big thing. The images refreshing. The way at least some image files used to download, they'd a really blocky version of them would download, and then a few more pixels would resolve, and then a few more, and a few more, and a few more, until you actually got the picture. And you'd sit there going, "Refresh, yeah." refresh. That was only some file types. Other ones would do it line by line. But some would do the whole thing in a really blocky image, and then gradually more pixels and more pixels till you got your final picture. It was all very strange, very, very strange. Yeah, Felix, here, the thing you're saying about how slow it used to be to download music files, that's where Rickrolling first started. Most people now know what you mean if you say you're Rickrolling someone. The people are expecting one thing, and they end up with Rick Astley singing "Never Gonna Give You Up," and it kind of works now. But how it really worked in the early days is you're downloading a song which takes ages, and you'd upload a version of "Never Gonna Give You Up" to the server, but give it a name of a really popular song, and then people would download it. And it would take ages. It would take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes for this one song to download. And they go, oh, finally, I've got the newest track from Madonna or whatever. And they click play. And, Never Gonna Give You Up would start. That was the original Rickrolling. It was actually a pretty cruel prank because you'd use up 15, 20 minutes of someone's time. And then finally they'd click play and they get, and that was pretty harsh. Mr. Grant Gregory, how you going? That someone got you on LimeWire with that when you were looking for Metallica. Yeah, LimeWire was another big one. Speaking about not using a condom, as Ms. Foxification was talking about the equivalent of not having proper computer security, the file sharing sites in those Wild West days was you're a 50-50 chance of getting malware with every file you download. That's yes, we were wild and crazy and didn't care. Oh yes, feeling like Napster got shut down, then Kazaa came up, and Kazaa got shut down. Yeah, but then eventually, as interesting, one of the first really successful commercial music distribution things online that paid the record labels and had to deal with the record labels was Apple iTunes, and the at first the record companies were like, yay, we've got something we make money off, yay. And then Apple controlled so much of the market, they freaked out and go, oh my God, Apple owns us. Oh my God, oh my God. And then they all freaked out. But now of course there's really two big online music sources. It's like Apple Music and Spotify. I mean, yeah, they're not the only ones, but they completely dominate the market for downloads and streaming. So, yeah. Oh God, Darren just said you posted a video today reading hate tweets that were sent to you. Oh God, I bet some of those are brutal. People really suck. This Foxification is saying Spotify isn't profitable. I know a lot of musicians. That's an interesting prospect. I don't know the financials of Spotify, but I know a lot of musicians hate Spotify because they think Spotify is making money, and they don't get they get a few cents per 1,000 streams. So you hear people talking about getting millions of streams, but they don't actually make much money. Toby, what do I prefer, MP3 files or CDs? I still buy CDs occasionally, and I buy stuff from iTunes as well. I have the Apple phone. This is what some people say, you should change phones. You go, well, Apple's kind of got me in the soft handcuffs because I bought a bunch of stuff through the App Store and iTunes that won't work on a non-Apple phone. So I'd lose a lot if I changed phones. So I'm probably not going to change phones. It's a music aviator. Oh, evening, Venice Bloom. Music aviator. You're writing an answer to Cora and wanted to post a song the co-worker wrote. His lyrics are poignant. Forgot which song it was. Oh, we're going to have to listen to the whole album again. Oh, well, it sounds like you're not going to mind that. It sounds like it's a good album. Tara, you saw a video of another one of the trolls attacking my last live stream. I don't this. I don't get these obsessed people. I don't get hate watching. Like where I make a video on a topic, you know, it's a big news topic. Like I'm not attacking someone on YouTube. The closest it came to that, and I didn't even realize I was close to doing it, is when by coincidence, in the same week, the TV show in Australia, Tonightly, and the Scottish YouTube account Dankula were getting harassed by forces of government for people did not like their joke and were going after them. And in Tonightly's case, it was for calling some politician a cunt. And Corey Bernardi was very upset that they called his mate a cunt. And of course, in Count Dankula's thing, it was his Hitler dog thing. And I did say when I made the video, and I had actually had a couple of drinks before I made that video, I did say I did not believe Count Dankula's defense that, no, I hate Nazis and whatnot. I was like, dude, if you hate Nazis, why are you hanging out with ultra-right wingers, and why are you repeating the exact talking points of the extreme right? And this is the thing, that a lot of these extreme right wingers just argue in bad faith. They go like, it's just jokes, it's just jokes. Whereas what they're actually trying to do is normalize hate speech, and they're lying when they say no. Frank, lunch is over. Okay, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, man, and then you have a weekend. So, but I never expected Count Dankula to even notice me. It wasn't a call-out video. It wasn't a diss video. I was literally talking about the news story, not about him. And I was talking about the news story about Tonightly and the news story about him. And he, you know, he made a thing having a go at me, which he was completely justified in doing. But the weirdest thing is, I never intended it as a call-out. I never thought he'd even notice my existence. But that's probably the closest I've come to doing like a call-out video on YouTube. It wasn't my intention, but you could be forgiven for thinking that. But yeah, I've been a swim. That's nice. I think I'm a better news source than 9 years. That's arguably a low bar, but I thank you anyway. Mr. Grant Gregory, we haven't talked in great deal about the final solution yet. We mentioned it briefly, but what's that? Okay, Musical Aviator. Okay, for those who are on Bandcamp, what Musical Aviator is listening to is Georgia Ray. Some good Melbourne pop country folk. That sounds good. I like the sound of that. Hey, Barry, how's it going? Catherine, has anyone read the book Who Controls the Internet? About 12 years old, good look at the laws will change because of the internet. Ah, that's interesting. I wonder if they've done updates on it at all in 12 years. Hey, Mega Leech, how's it going, man? Animals, I've seen that, Amos Shiga. Yeah, it's just not a thing I do. I get your point completely. There are people who sort of desperately want a bagging, but yeah, I know it's just not really my thing. Like, it has to be a mainstream news thing. Like, okay, people could argue that I do that with Alex Jones, but I mean, it's a mainstream news story when Alex Jones does his ridiculous shit. Yes, it's great. Okay, the final solution. Toby, you're asking what's about. Okay, what actually happened? A filthy racist who used to be in Pauline Hanson's party and defected to be in Bob Catter's party. Filthy ultra right-wing racist piece of shit made his first speech in Parliament. He's a senator, and he yearned for a return to the white Australia policy. Talk this usual shite about, I'm talking for the vast majority of Australians. Fuck no, you're not, you racist old cunt. But then he said, oh, your problem with is Muslim immigration. We need a final solution for Muslim immigration. I mean, literally invoking the Nazi terminology for the extermination of the Jewish people. And all the people, and I mean, there's only a few, but the people who bent over backwards trying to justify, like Bob Catter did, saying like, oh, no, it was a great speech. I loved it. And saying that, oh, he didn't know what the final solution meant. Bull fucking shit. I am 100% convinced that that piece of shit actively engages with Nazis and anti-Semites. When you are talking about immigration and white supremacy like he was, you don't say final solution by accident. Anyone who says that was an accident and didn't know what he was saying, that is absolutely fucking bullshit. I really hoped Bob Catter would stand the fuck up and go, look, he went too far, I'm going to have a word with him. But Catter just went full feral and applauded him, didn't just not say he was wrong, actively applauded him. And as someone pointed out, when you've got Pauline Hanson saying that was far too racist, and saying, you know, that was propaganda out of the Goebbels playbook. I mean, you know, all the politicians, apart from Bob Catter, saying, no, this is some racist bullshit. We can't put up with that. Although I did like, there's this thing I posted on the socials earlier tonight, a still from Catter's press conference, where he says the strangest shit. Like, he's seriously unbalanced. He says the strangest shit, and he's going like, "Are we racist? Well, we're Australian." And I'm like, okay. And I did notice on Twitter and the rest, a few non-white Australians commenting on Bob Catter saying, "Are we racist? Well, we're Australians," and more than a few non-white Australians going, "Well, that's a bit more honest than we're used to." It was just like, what a fucking piece of shit. Because I have, you know, found things that were favourable to say about Bob Catter in the past, but I'll never waste a fucking breath on justifying it again. He's absolute fucking garbage. Absolute garbage. As everyone said, you saw Fox News, they're bemoaning the browning of America. Yeah. White people in America are quite freaking out. And but see, that's like dog whistling. And it's like the nerve of Malcolm Turnbull saying, "Oh, that's a bit racist," when he perpetuated the blatant lie about, "Oh, it's out of control crime with African gangs in Melbourne." Like, yes, there are crimes being committed by migrants, and specifically Sudanese and other African migrants. And you can look at the statistics and go, "Oh, they're overrepresented in the data." You know, 0.1% of the population being 1% of the crimes. That's an overrepresentation. But it's also a really small number. It's like about 800 crimes over the entire year. So, you know, 800 out of 80,000. And the concept of saying that's an out of control crime wave and everyone in Melbourne's living in terror is fucking ridiculous. It's not just a lie. They know they're lying, and they know they're being racist, and they're deliberately pandering to racists. They're so desperate for votes, they're going hard for the racist vote. It's a conscious racist lie designed to appeal to racists and whip up racist hysteria. And the concept of Malcolm Turnbull saying this final solution, go, "That's a bit much." Fuck you, Turnbull. You're the one perpetuating vicious fucking racist lies. You went a bit hard there, Tara, I see. Okay. Yeah, Grant Gregory, that's a bit of a summary of Bob Catter, the drunk, angry uncle that everyone has but no one talks about. I mean, you the one Catter thing that a lot of got a bit of play in media around the world because it was so strange. It's when he was talking about marriage equality, because he's been on record. I've heard him in interviews saying there's no one gay in his electorate, which of course led people to go, yeah, I want to hang out with Bob Catter and put Grinder on his phone and soon let him know how many gay people are in his electorate. But he did that weird thing where he went, oh, look, people want to lead their own lives, let 1,000 flowers bloom and all that. And then he just switched like this Jekyll and Hyde voice, but I'm not going to talk about it when someone's torn apart by a crocodile every month in North Queensland. And everyone's going, what the fuck is that about? What? How? Why did you change like that? And what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Good Lord. Mr. Grant Gregory, why are they lying? Because they're not punished for lying. It's as simple as that. They're not punished for lying. There are conservative media will repeat it and amplify it. More responsible parts in the media will run things going, here are the actual statistics. Here are the actual statistics. The concept that everyone's living in terror of being attacked by a young Sudanese thug is absolutely fucking ridiculous because it's just not real. But there's no repercussions for them telling these blatant fucking racist lies. I feel we were talking about the Bob Catter's mate Fraser Anning and his White Australia Final Solution speech, and what a piece of shit he is. That's an interesting one, Toby. You called an American Christian apologist last night, hung up when you asked why Jesus had to die for God's impossible standards. Yeah, if you're going to use logic and religion, you're never going to get very far. Bury, do I think in the age of media, white supremacists would try another genocide? Well, I don't know. Look at Israel rather recklessly bombing Gaza. Look at the US and allies bombing civilians all through the Middle East. Genocides happen. Look at the Muslim extremists in Africa and the various splinter groups there, and they've kidnapped people, murdered whole. Fuck, man, people will do shit. I'm horrified by humanity, basically. It's a good point, David. Telling people that you hate them makes them more likely to hate you. But yeah, I mean, deliberately marginalizing people and making them a target for hatred, nothing's going to improve doing stuff like that. Mr. Grant Gregory, your family has an Armenian background, early 20th century, which Turkey still asserts didn't happen. The genocide against the Armenians in the early 20th century. But yeah, no, humanity is fucked. I like at one point, okay, one of the most appalling horrors of the 20th century was World War One, because it was completely fucking pointless and millions of young men killed and whole countries devastated by and I on one level I do like to think that if we'd had proper media reporting of something as bad as World War One today, the public would rise up and say, man, you can't fucking kill tens of thousands of our young men every fucking week for no fucking reason. What the fuck? But then I just look at people and I go, yeah, I'm not sure that would work, actually. Dirk Van Dien, kind of like the all right, made you. What? Sorry, were you saying? And I get what you're saying. If this is what you're saying, that if I tell Trump supporters, I fucking hate them. It's going to make them hate me. Yeah, but I do fucking hate them. You're right. My first sign, there probably is a conflict in Turkey between more conservative and religious country people and more smaller liberal urban people, kind of like Australia. Yeah, I mean, Turkey was a very successful secular Muslim country, but the current guy, and he's a fucking dictator. You can argue all you like, he was elected, but he's a fucking tyrant. Erdogan is bad fucking news. That guy is bad fucking news, and is not good at all. What's going on? It's true. You think Mother Earth and the animals wondering we're going to die off. I think, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to kill off at least 75% of the animal population of the world before we either wake up to ourselves or die out ourselves. So, yeah, there's overwhelming scientific evidence that we are living through a mass extinction event, which is pretty goddamn unpleasant. Emperor Seagard, you may be right. Maybe we are the cockroaches and won't die out. We'll survive an ice age. We'll survive the Mad Max world. Yes, that's why I watch the Mad Max movies occasionally. They're instructional videos for our future life, basically, how to survive in the future wastelands. Dirk, the great filter. What's the great filter that you think may be fast approaching? Like the Bureau. Each passing day makes the plot of Terra Nova make more sense. Cool. This Foxification saying cultural anthropology defines we're in the death throes of our civilization. We have all the signs coming to an end very soon with few generations. Look, what I worry about is that the coming likely ecological disasters will kill millions of brown and black people first, and the capitalists will only do anything about it when it destroys their global capital structure. And I do worry that millions upon millions of people will die before anything concrete is done. Dirk, I most certainly do not know what the great filter theory is. You feel free to fill me in. Oh, you're right, David. Earth itself has plenty of years left, even if it's down to microbial life that over a few millennia evolves again. But yes. Okay, I'm just going to look something up. While we talk, I'm just... okay. There is unsurprisingly, a Wikipedia entry for Great Filter. Great Filter, in the context of the Fermi paradox, is whatever prevents dead matter from undergoing a biogenesis in time to expanding lasting life as measured by a scale. Concept originates in the argument failure to find any extraterrestrial civilization in the observable universe implies the possibility something is wrong with one or more of the arguments from various scientific disciplines, that the appearance of advanced intelligent life is probable. This observation is conceptualized in terms of great filter, which acts to reduce the great number of sites where intelligent life might arise to the tiny number of intelligent species with advanced civilization actually observed. Currently just one, us. Probability, no. So this is seems to be suggesting that maybe advanced civilizations just aren't sustainable. So every civilization reads a certain point and then dies out. Yeah. So it suggests that every civilization will die out and we may be facing our dying out. Tara, you're having an ECG. Okay, I hope that gives you good news. Sorry, musically elevator. You're thinking of Stephen Conroy's internet filter. Yeah, the internet's so fucking weird. Yeah, misfoxification. It's an interesting paradox. If you know, when we think about the billions upon billions of stars we see, and the probably billions more we don't see, you'd think just mathematically, and now with better and better telescopes, we are seeing there are definitely Earth-like planets around other stars that we can suppose have the potential to support life. But yes, okay. So why haven't we seen them? Why haven't they reached space? And of course, sci-fi authors like to bring in some version of hyperspace because we're like, we get relativity says we can't travel faster than light, which make interstellar travel uh, untenable. So that's where sci-fi writers come up with concepts like hyperspace. It goes like, ooh, like either through a wormhole or a black hole, you actually travel through a different sort of space, which lets you travel vast different distances in a much shorter time. And it gets you past the limits of relativity. Of course, the other possibility is we just don't know everything. It's, as simple as that. Uh, so maybe all the special theories of relativity and quantum theory, simple. We just don't know things because I mean the really out there theories, and I'm with you, Dirk. Relativity and the more advanced scientific theories do my head in as well. But there's probability of stuff we simply haven't discovered. There's stuff that could refute. I know the more advanced scientific theories talk about multiple dimensions. I don't even know what they've got up to, if it's 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 different dimensions. But most of us consider time to be linear, like you travel through time. But you start talking to a scientist who studies time and relativity, and they start talking about some of the out there uh, uh, theories, ideas, or whatnot about how time isn't linear. That's just how we experience it. Uh, and starts doing your head in really quickly. AIDS's actually very good with that. I think that's part of his Asperger's outlook on life, is able to deconstruct quantum theory and whatnot, and spout all sorts of things because his brain just pulls things apart in particular ways. Philo and Seal, I think you're onto something. If you were talking about aliens, maybe they don't want to contact us. I think you might be onto it, that the aliens got together and looked at us and, built a fence around us. What? There's a sci-fi writer I like that I've read heaps of over the years, called Alan Dean Foster. He's written a whole bunch of novels. He's written some Star Wars expanded universe novels, and he does write really good short stories as well. And he had one called With Friends Like These. It's like an alien delegation comes to Earth because they need the humans' help. The humans have interacted with the whole universe, and the humans have basically been so extreme and so out there and warlike and whatnot that all the alien races got together and said, we basically need to put a barrier around Earth to stop them. And so Earth's been within this barrier for generations. But the aliens have come up against another race who are worse than humans, and the humans were at least not really fascist. But this other race they've come into contact with is into extermination of all other races. They can't beat them, and they go, God, we need the humans. And so this delegation comes to Earth, and they land. It's like this peaceful, bucolic, farm-like life. All the humans are very peaceful in their farm. There doesn't seem to be any advanced technology anywhere. Humans are just being very rural and peaceful. Offer the aliens ice cream, and the aliens eventually say, we need your help. And the humans go, we can't do anything. You don't let us. And they go, okay, if we take off the barrier, would you help us? And the humans go, man, look, we learned our lesson. We just want to be friends. If there's trouble, we'll help you with it, okay? And the aliens because they're still a bit freaked out at all the stories they've heard about humans. And they go, okay, and they do something, and it turns off the barrier around the Earth. And the farm guy they've been talking to is going, oh my God, I don't believe you did that. With everything we've got, we've never been able to work out how to switch that off. And he goes, right. And he like pushes a button, and then everything goes, and like big engines come out of Earth, and the entire planet's like a spaceship. And the peaceful farmer who was giving them ice cream has gone, right, let's go fuck some shit up. And the aliens are just going, oh God, what have we done? What have we done? What have we done? Because humans are all fucked up. Catherine, you like the space Nazi movie? Do you mean, was it Iron Sky? Nazis on the moon? Ibra Seagut, yes. Giving the aliens diseases, which was, of course, the classic, the very, very forward-thinking H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds, when the Martians, who were so advanced compared to us, come and intent on wiping us out, but they've got no defense against the common cold because they don't have that on Mars, and it wipes them out. Yeah, there are all sorts of logistical problems with us interacting with alien life, really. Yes, Felix said, Agent Smith's humans are a virus speech. Yeah, it's a pretty accurate description, really. This is the funniest thing, because if you're an Australian, you've speaking about Agent Smith, Hugo Weaving. When I first watched The Matrix, I hated Hugo Weaving's accent. I thought it was terrible, terrible, and because he's a great actor, and I've seen him in so many things. But it grew on me, and I really liked him, and it's because also Agent Smith is an outsider. This is one of the things that a lot of people don't get properly about The Matrix, and particularly the sequels, where Smith's going out of control and Neo teams up with the machines to fight Smith. And people going, but wait, what? Smith is the machines. Go, no. The machines have made the same mistake humans have. Humans built the machines and advanced them till they had minds of their own, and then they came into conflict. And when the machines realized the humans wanted to stop them, the machines fought the humans. The programs, the agents, they're not machines. They're programs created by the machines, and they were supposed to work within certain parameters, but they kept evolving, and they broke their barriers. And yeah, Smith tried to take over. Smith versus the machines is exactly the same as the machines versus humans, and a lot of people seem to miss that because they think that the agents and the machines are the same things, and because the machines don't really come in to the first Matrix movie. You do get the squids and whatnot, but it's not really laid out that the agents and the machines are completely separate and are operating independently. But in the sequels, it becomes much clearer that Smith is not of the machines. The machines built Smith, but he went beyond the parameters. And that's where it all goes pear-shaped. And Dirk, you are right. First contact between different human civilizations tend to go bad because one civilization tries to dominate the other, usually very successfully, often genocidally. and that is the pattern humans have, and that's in a lot of apocalyptic science fiction. Of course, if a truly advanced alien race landed here, they regard us like bugs and think we should be wiped out because we're just in their way. That's an interesting point, this foxification, saying that maybe the thing about our diseases and viruses being able to affect aliens is actually low because we don't even get that much crossover between animals and humans. But when we do get crossover, it tends to be horrifically bad. And that's the thing that has a lot of uh, virologists, scientists really fucking freaked out. You know, a pandemic of bird flu or swine flu or something. Basically, an animal-born influenza type virus that's incredibly virulent and humans have no defense against. So who knows? I mean, obviously, we're talking in complete abstracts, and it wouldn't do to get too worked up about it because there's obviously no way to resolve it one way or the other. I think I've brought this up whenever we have this conversation. One of my favorite comics by Warren Ellis called Transmetropolitan. It's a future sci-fi thing, and there's the central character is a journalist, Spider Jerusalem, and in all this advanced technology, a lot of people reject it, and they set up like nature preserves for humans to try and recreate primitive human civilization, and they reject all the modern stuff. But they're like nature preserves, but for humans. And when Spider wants to go and visit one of the preserves, he goes, "Okay, you've got to go through this medical procedure first." They go, lift up one arm, and they got this syringe with like 20 needle points on it that jam under his arm and go, "Okay, this is to protect you from the 100 horrible diseases they live with every day." And then you go, "That's awful." He's going, and then lift up the other arm, and another bigger needle syringe with more needles comes in, and they're going to jab you, and you go, "And this is to protect them from the 100 horrible diseases you live with every day." So yes, cross-cultural contamination, literally. Do it. You think? Oh, I think Jordan Peterson is capable of saying some interesting things, but he's been overtaken by his political agenda uh, to the point where he says just demonstrably stupid shit in the service of his political agenda. He's obviously capable of positing really interesting ideas and exploring really interesting concepts about civilization, but he is clearly, and has been for a couple of years, clearly political agenda forced first and foremost, and everything else, philosophy and whatnot, is completely secondary and is manipulated and put forward solely to advance his political agenda now. So he ends up saying patently ridiculous bullshit because it fits this idea that he's pushing out. Like some of the stuff he says is so trivially easy to pull apart and has been pulled apart again and again and again. It's absolutely ridiculous. What's that feeling, Silla? The 80s Twilight Zone. They went to UNHQ, told them Earth will be destroyed. And the next day they'd had peace accords and human thought they were safe, but they then laughed and said they weren't warlike enough to help them in their own space war, so Earth is going to be destroyed anyway. Oh dear. I miss Foxification. You think Al Gore did that? I don't see. This is the weirdest thing with climate change. When you get like climate change deniers uh, obsessing about Al Gore, and oh, he said stuff in an inconvenient truth that's not true or is exaggerated. It's going fine. Literally ignore everything Al Gore ever said. Like, totally ignore everything Al Gore ever said. Don't use him as a reference or anything. Just look at the peer-reviewed scientific studies by climate scientists, okay? I've never invoked Al Gore. I still have not seen an inconvenient truth. I always kind of keep meaning to see it because, you know, it was a moment, but I've still not seen an inconvenient truth. But the idea that someone go, oh, Al Gore exaggerated something or made something up, oh, therefore climate change isn't real, it's just fucking ridiculous. Just ignore. I'm completely okay with ignoring everything Al Gore ever said. Never invoke Al Gore, never use any of his arguments. Solely use the arguments from the peer-reviewed scientific studies done by climate scientists. And you will get a really fucking disturbing picture from that. Ugh. Music Dave Eddie, you're on your way home now. Oh, the power of the mobile network. Your train was nearly empty and stopped at Melbourne Central. Now it's full. Oh, well. Was it 9 o'clock on a Thursday? I suppose people might have been shopping or something. I don't know. Seems odd that it suddenly got really full, but maybe people were shopping or something, doing after work stuff. But, oh, Tendo, I did see that. Elon Musk possibly getting in trouble for his stock dealings. Wasn't it a weird thing because he's still like going out with Grimes and another pop star was there and said something about what she saw there? That was all very weird. Heretic, yes, I've been to California a few times. A couple of times for YouTubey things, and because I went over a couple of times because one of my oldest YouTube friends, Corey, Mr. Safety, or of SMP Films, used to live in California, and I stayed with him a couple times when I went over to California. So yes, in fact, of the few places in the US I've been to California. So I was like, and even that was just like LA and San Francisco. Been to Las Vegas, and been to Colorado, and actually drove. I was a passenger, but drove from Las Vegas to Colorado. So that also involved going through Utah. So it was like Nevada. You end up crossing Utah and I think Wyoming as well. So technically, I've been in a couple of US states, but really, I've only been in like Colorado, and Las Vegas, and California. Hey, Rukusan and Roy. Didn't know you've heard a lot of Silicon Valley types take microdoses of LSD. Well, Steve Jobs famously was into the hallucinogens. But yeah, I've heard a lot of the rich Silicon Valley types get really tiresome and like pay a guru to lead them on guided like hallucinogen trips, and it's just like, oh, dude, what the fuck? What is wrong with you? Dirk, are the big fires in New South Wales out here? I don't think so. They caught everyone by surprise. Like all of New South Wales is in drought, has been for ages. And yes, and the warnings are when you saw what happened in the Northern Hemisphere in their summer, the record temperatures and the really bad fires and whatnot, Australia is probably in for a fucking evil summer. It's probably going to get super hot, and we're probably going to get really fucking brutal bushfires. And that's basically likely going to be our new normal. It's the weirdest thing. Like there's been these for the last decade or two. There's been these extreme weather events happening all the time. And they go, oh, it's a once in a century flood. It's a once in a century bushfire. It's a once in a century whatever, and they're happening all the fucking time. It's just like our new normal. Oh, that's it. is foxification, and I don't know how to pronounce that. But it's a South American thing, ayahuasca or whatever. Ah, and it's so fucking tiresome. Rukasan, we have been throwing metaphorical bags of poop at Kata. And this is one of those things where I think I'm mostly upset because I've found ways to say good things about Bob Katter in the past, despite us disagreeing so much on so many things. But not after this man. Just actively praising this piece of shit he's associated with, who wants the white Australia policy back, and go, oh, he didn't know what final solution meant. Bull fucking shit. That guy knew exactly what he was saying, exactly what he was invoking when he said final solution. Fuck that noise. I got no time for it. But yeah, I did see, speaking about our summer and bushfires and whatnot, I did see an unsurprising article today. There's like people are starting to warn that Victoria could have its worst bushfire season in a decade. And of course, those with memories going back a decade will remember the really bad fires we did have about 10 years ago that wiped out whole towns. And those were the bushfires that changed Australia's whole bushfire reporting things. It's kind of like you can get a laugh about Australia's a wild and crazy dangerous place when you say our bushfire warning scale, the second lowest on the warning scale is high, and it just keeps going. And it was these big fires from about 10 years ago that introduced the catastrophic rating. It's that rating that says when it hits that rating, it's too late to do anything. Like if in your area hits that critical rating, I don't know. I think they'd call it catastrophic. It's too late, and that warning happened for some people in New South Wales in these current fires. They already got told, like, if you haven't got out of the path of the fire now, it's too late to do anything. You need to basically stay in your home, take emergency measures, and just hope it doesn't get you. Because basically they're saying the fires are that bad. At this point, driving on the roads is higher risk than staying put. So yeah, it was a really disturbing turn of events, that one about 10 years ago, where we introduced this new rating that's if you're in an area with this level of warning, it's too late to do anything. I was like, well, fuck, that's new. But I was starting to hear the same saying, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you are in the US, people committing terrorist acts, the ones you're far more in danger from are white Christian terrorists, as in white Christian violent extremists who are killing people in the name of their ideology. That is by far the highest risk group in the US. That is definitely who's most likely to kill you in the US. The concept of, oh, no, Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim, is fucking moronic. But anyone who'd say it is usually so far gone, pointing out like simple facts to them is a waste of time. It's like, again, statistically in the US, you are more likely to be shot by a toddler than by a Muslim terrorist, which is fucking ridiculous. But that's an actual true thing. You are more likely to be shot by a terrorist. Sorry, you're more, well, terrorist toddler. I think they're doing it on purpose. They say, the toddler didn't know what they're doing. They do. Fucking toddlers, I think when everyone's asleep, the toddlers are getting on the internet and getting radicalized, and they're talking each other into these shootings. They're not accidents. It's not a kid with an unslowed. The kid's done, the toddler's done it on purpose. Oh, the heretic. You're glad you don't have empathy, so you don't have to care about the horrible things that are happening. Yeah. Isn't this fun? Now we're all talking about how we're all doomed in Australia from bushfires. And yes, I am filled with trepidation about this summer after what happened in the Northern Hemisphere summer. This summer, it bodes very ill for Australia. Very, very disturbing what might end up happening here. I just have something. I'm going to quickly look something up. Never you mind. Man, okay, now it just randomly occurred to me because I saw a thing today that Powerball in Australia was like $100 million, and I was wondering if someone won it. I just looked up. Someone did, and probably a while till they know who, but someone or someone's won the jackpot. So someone's really rich after tonight. Wish it was someone I knew. I'd volunteer to be their house slave. I think you're right, Miss Foxification. The Teletubbies are behind it. The Teletubbies are definitely behind. Oh, nice. It took me ages to get that pun, Rukasan. The infantry. Hey. The infantry. That took me far too long to get. I'm out of drink. I need to get me some ice. Let me just digress. I need some ice. I guess. Here's one. This is my special stuff. All right. I'm going to mix something. This neat bottle. I got this just for the bottle. This is a fig liqueur. You see how much glass there is at the bottom? This is really heavy. Like, I think when it's finished, you use it as a weapon in hand-to-hand combat. Like, hold it like that. It'll be a really good weapon. But can make some good cocktails with it. So don't do that. Yes, Mofo son, you're right. There are lots of stories of big lottery winners losing it all not long after and having very unhappy lives. Not me. I've got it all planned out. You know, first I'd have to buy a lottery ticket, but you know, I had it all planned. What I'd do, I'd be fine. Oh, Dirk, you're into archery. Have you seen there's that it's kind of like an archery version of paintball. I've not seen it in real life. I've just seen friends sort of share links to it on Facebook. It's kind of like paintball, but it's with bows and arrows, and there's like a big soft ball on the end of the arrows, and you have these big combat things. Have you ever done that? You know what I'm talking about. Have you ever done it? Because it certainly looks like fun on the Facebook stories, and I have had friends say we should do that. And I'm like, yeah. David used to do clay target shooting with a shotgun. I never really got into shotguns because I grew up in the country. We had some 22s, good old Lithgow small arms 22s, 22 caliber rifles. Used to do target shooting. Was never really into shooting animals, but I did like target shooting. Dirk, you're keen to have a go. Yeah, I think you use a 50-pound bow. Yeah, I think you use the bows they have there at the place. So yeah, they don't go with a lot of force, so you don't hurt someone badly when you hit them. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Phila and Zilla. Yeah, have a plan for your winnings, but it seems that people who win don't have a plan. No, I don't. Yes, lottery gods, you should let me win because I have an awesome plan that I'd even be helping people, but I'd certainly be looking after myself. I'll tell you that much for free. Yeah. Yes, Dirk, I'm sure you want your own bow. I think it's kind of like paintball. In a lot of cases, they don't let you bring your own weapon into paintball either. You have to use theirs because they know how strong those are. Yes, Miss Foxification, you're right. It is a fair point to say that lotteries have often been called a tax on the poor. I try to be realistic. If I ever buy lottery tickets, I'm really conscious. Like, I am not likely to win this. Buying a ticket raises my chances of winning from absolutely zero to just barely above zero. Mathematically measurable, but barely above zero. So yeah. You're into the basic income. You want a basic income lottery. Let's see that. Cans don't shoot back. I should attack it with a knife. All right, you because that might get sharp edges and cut me. Oh, actually, Mofo's one. You know, there are some. I've seen them in the newsagents. They're a scratchy thing they call set for life. Instead of being a big payout, they pay you $20,000 if you win. You get $20,000 a month for life. So you don't get millions and millions of dollars, but of course, 20,000 a month is a lot for most people. So you could live a happy life on that. And of course, because it's a lottery thing, I think you don't pay tax on that. So in practical terms, it's worth more. Catherine, yes, paintballing does tend to end up with bruises. That's why I like laser tag. You don't get bruises from laser tag. Oh, I could easily live on 20K a month, particularly if it was tax free. Um, yeah, it wouldn't be decadent or anything, but it's just like, man, I can A, be comfortable, and B, do whatever I want because I don't have to have a 9 to 5 job. I can, just do whatever. And I'd be pretty happy with that, quite honestly. So I think in the US, those mega lotteries they have that regularly get into the hundreds of millions. Um, there you get two choices with those. You get a lump sum payout that you do pay tax on, or you get like a monthly or annual payout of a smaller amount and you possibly don't pay tax on that. But I'm not sure of the intricate details yet. But yeah. Oh, Catherine, that's the big question. Would I still do YouTube? I don't know. I think, and in all seriousness, I have to admit, I'm stupid enough to occasionally have these daydreams like, well, if I won a lot of money on the lottery, what do I do? What I would probably do is actually set up a studio, like a whole recording studio. So have like a music recording studio and like a big green screen studio and like a TV studio. So I could do stuff collaboratively uh, with other YouTubers. And so I'd have a thing where I could interact with people and it'd be helping other people, giving other people things. So yeah, I think I like to think I'd stop being so antagonistic on YouTube because I look occasionally like that guy Notch who sold Minecraft for $1 billion. I think he may have gone off social media, but he did spend a long time being a fuckhead misogynist turd on Twitter, and I couldn't help just looking at him going like, dude, I'd like to think if I had $1 billion, I wouldn't waste time being a dickhead on the internet. Tara, I want to do what Leo Laporte did. I don't know. What did Leo Laporte do? But yeah, I reckon I'd set up a studio where I'd work with other people. Oh, yeah, no, not just turned into complete fucking. And I do like to think if I had $1 billion, I wouldn't waste time um, being a dickhead on the internet. But yes, he's basically, turned into a fuckhead. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully he'll eventually realize that's really stupid and stop doing it. But yeah, I think I'd like to still do stuff and still be creative. But also, there's a very uh, real question of would it be a good idea to be in the public eye? But obviously, a lot of rich people are in the public eye, and that's the whole thing they do. I don't know. Catherine, I don't know. Were the Dudesons rich and all they did was be dicks on the internet? I don't know. Right, would I punch Fraser Anning? No, I think that's really counterproductive. Uh, I don't think anything positive would come out of punching Fraser Anning. He's just a stupid, racist old man, and virtually no one's paying any attention. No one's on his side. And of the people who are on his side, like nothing would be achieved by punching him. So it's like all full of shit. Oh, sorry, Tara. I did know who Leo Laporte is. I assume you meant he'd set up a studio. Yeah, I didn't hear that specifically. Laritic, would I sack Rome if I could? I would lead my Visigoth hordes to sack Rome, most definitely. I reckon, like I said, I would, particularly if it was a stupid amount of money, like this $100 million that was on the Powerball tonight. I reckon I would do a few creative things, a few community things. I'd like to make films. I think I'd like to find some good people in the Australian film industry because there's some stunningly fucking talented people in the Australian film industry and tell some really good stories in film. Uh, yeah, man, no, I'd be a great millionaire, billionaire. I like to think I wouldn't waste my time being a dickhead on the internet. I like that plan, Biori. Why is it so hard for rich YouTubers to not be dicks? You've got a plan for them. Part one, get money. Part two, don't be a dick. Part three, get more money. And then you can just repeat those 3 steps. That's pretty good. Yeah, there is a thing about, but it's really difficult. I liked Hank Green made a video. One of the Vlog brothers made a video. I think it was just in the last week, and it was based on an idea that a writer had put forward, and they called it the giant robot suit. If you haven't seen it, I'd really recommend watching the video. And probably, I don't know if it's a book or whatever that the thing comes from, but it's a great uh, uh, psychological idea. It's like, why do people fuck up so much on the internet? Like, because when we're online, we all have a robot suit, but we can't see it. Like, if we look in the mirror, we just see ourselves. We don't see the robot suit, but other people do see it. And we don't know how big our robot suit is. And we don't know what damage our robot suit can do. So sometimes people look at you and you only see yourself. They look and see a giant robot suit and they throw rocks at it and they attack it. And because they don't think they're actually hurting the giant robot suit, because how can they hurt a robot? a giant robot suit, but you see and feel and you can react in such a way that seems reasonable to you, but because you're in a giant robot suit, you're smashing and crushing, and what you've done is way out of scale with what was done for you, and you're not even necessarily aware of that. It's a very interesting metaphor, and it seemed very apt to me. I really liked it. And it explains a lot of things, like why do these people who think they're not being colossal assholes actually do things that to us they're colossal assholes, and they whipping up their like hate mob to attack and crush someone who's just a little bitty person, and they're this great big internet person. They don't feel like a great big internet person. They just feel like a person. They don't see their giant robot suit. It was a very interesting metaphor. And I do thoroughly recommend looking up the Hank Green video where he talks about it. And I assume Hank, being Hank, probably gave a link to his source for that. So, in fact, even as we talk about it, I was thinking I should be able to find it, and he may have a handy dandy link in it. So if I find the Vlogbrothers channel, yes, okay, it was 5 days ago. Hank made video, and if I look at it, okay, no, he hasn't put a link in there, but I do think the video is worth looking at. The Vlogbrother videos from like 5 days ago that Hank did about the giant robots, because it's a very interesting metaphor, very interesting visualization of an abstract concept. And humans work well that way. We're pretty good at understanding difficult ideas by turning them into abstract concepts. Every now and then, someone comes up with a really good metaphor, or like a really good way to visualize a very complex issue. And yeah, when I see things, one that I really like is like, oh, that's great. And I saw this giant robot one just in the last week, and I thought, ooh, that's good. That explains a lot. Yes, I do recommend getting a hold of that one if you can. I still have one of my other searches open very early in the stream, when I talked about the Gravedigger cocktail. It's very weird because it's different for everyone. Because there are some cocktails that they're a particular thing. You know, a whiskey sour is a particular thing. Just say that because it's one of my favorite cocktails. Like my other favorite cocktail is a sidecar, and that's a particular thing. You can do little variations, and there are all sorts of little variations, but they're a particular thing. But when I looked up Gravedigger, every person's version of it is completely different. Which is very interesting. Like I think I've had another completely different one. Whiskey seems to be a common but not universal part of it. This one is rye whiskey, Strega liqueur, lemon juice, simple syrup, wasabi soda. They're often with some sort of soda, whether it's ginger ale or just like lemonade. Or this one is a wasabi flavored soda. This actually tells you how to make your own wasabi soda. Whisk 1 cup of wasabi powder, sugar, and water. Okay, So it's wasabi, sugar, and water. Okay, make your own. Fair enough. Wasabi's a bit intense. Mind you, I've got my the red skull up there is my a red rum, chili infused rum, which I quite like. But I'm quite intrigued that this one, the Gravedigger, is completely different. I mean, like completely different on every other page. Like this one's even. This is a Gravedigger martini as chocolate liqueur or chocolate milk and milk. Okay, and vodka. It's just no, that's just a chocolate vodka. It's not a fucking Gravedigger martini. That person's an idiot. Okay, I've immediately written you off because you're an idiot. That's nothing special. It's just a. It's not even a martini. It's just a chocolate vodka. Tend I ever made an old fashioned? Old fashioned is okay. I like to do because of seriously, an old fashioned is basically whiskey and sugar. There's a whole bunch of little variations, but an old fashioned is basically whiskey and sugar. And I've got a where is it? Somewhere there, I've got an elderflower cordial I got from the supermarket, and I've done variations of an old fashioned, and it's whiskey with some of this elderflower cordial. Nice big thing of ice in it, and swirl it around, and it's not bad. I prefer a whiskey sour. My whiskey sour is whiskey, and I'll do variations. Like it could be Scotch, it could be um, it's not brandy. Why's my brain gone blank? Could be rye whiskey. It could be bourbon. They're all slightly different flavors. Like if you make your whiskey sour with Scotch, it's got a more smoky flavor. It's one of my favorite. So it's whiskey, egg white, lemon juice, and the optional that I always add is sugar syrup. And shiki, and the egg white makes it really frothy, which I quite like. That's certainly my favorite, the whiskey sour. An old fashioned, it's not bad, but it's literally basically it's the most common form of old fashioned is whiskey with sugar and maybe orange bitters or just an orange rind squeezed into it. So it's a fairly simple drink, and that's why it's called old fashioned. And yes, Larry, the hand job. We have South Park to thank for an old fashioned referring to a hand job. Tendo, they're cocktails based on Vigors from Bioshock. Oh, there's a gaming place that's also a bar in. In fact, there's a couple, but there's ones upstairs is like tabletop gaming, and downstairs is a bar that has gaming themed cocktails. Like they have mana potions and healing potions, so they're coloured cocktails and they theme them around gaming. It's actually a pretty good venue. When I was having a night out with YouTubers one time, somebody knew this place. I went to it. Saying it looks like a fluffy duck. What's that's not one I make. What is traditionally a fluffy duck? Of course, I've heard of it because everyone talks about it. Okay, it's an advocat one. I have advocat. So Wikipedia says there's two different drinks. There's a white rum, which is white rum advocat cream, okay, and a gin one is gin advocat orange liqueur, orange juice, and so that's very different. Wow, those are two very different drinks. Rum advocat and heavy cream is super different to gin advocat, orange liqueur, and orange juice and soda. Those are super different drinks. I like drinks with egg white because they get fried. What I found out recently, you can substitute egg white for whey, as in curds and whey, and has a very similar effect, but actually probably tastes better and has a slightly better texture. Found out because Mrs. Angry recently has been making her own yogurt, and she also made her own like cottage cheese at one point, which ended up with a bunch of whey being as runoff. And we found that we looked up at the, you could use whey as a replacement for egg white in cocktails. So I made a couple of cocktails with it, and it is quite nice. It's very silky, adds a very a silky feel to the cocktail. But yes, no, I'm not a fluffy duck drinker. Ooh, let's share recipes. Heretic, you're saying you had a bartender friend who had a drink called the Fire Flower, vodka, whiskey, tequila, and orange juice. Ugh, I'm not sure I like the sound of that. I mean, I like those things individually. I got this one, the fig liqueur, because it had a big cocktail book and it had a few cocktails that had fig liqueur in them. And I saw this in a specialty bottle shop, and it was such a neat bottle. And I swear I'm probably going to keep the bottle after the drink's gone. This is really heavy. Like, that's a little bottle. It's really heavy. It's 500 ml bottle, but that, you see how much glass is at the bottom. I seriously think, yeah, in a street fight, you'd kill someone with this, smack them across the head with it. Honestly, officer, I was just having a drink, and that guy came at me, and I slipped and hit him in the head with my bottle. It was totally accidental. Sorry, officer. Oh, God, Le Heretic, that's such a gross follow-up. He called it the fire flower because everyone who drank it got explosive diarrhea afterwards. That is awful. That is thoroughly awful. So if I look up, see why I got the fig liqueur, there's a few good ones. I tried a couple of different ones. Yeah, there's a coffee-based one which I don't. It's like like the espresso martini. It's a version of an espresso martini that has this fig stuff. But I don't like coffee, so I didn't do that. I think I found on one website basically a version of like a sour, like I was saying, like whiskey sour is my favorite. This is it. They called it a fig and honey sour. And what they said to do was this fig liqueur, lemon juice, and a honey liqueur and egg white. And I've got a liqueur up there called Liquor 43, which is this sort of golden color, and it's very sweet. And so I thought, oh, that will work. And so I made that with this fig and Liquor 43, lemon juice, and egg white. And it's a fucking good drink. I'll tell you that much for free. Welcome to the Angry Alcoholic channel. Ruka said you got shit faced on Irish coffees. See, I don't like coffee flavor. And Prasiga, there are many good reasons to not drink alcohol, and if you have explosive diarrhea afterwards, it's a pretty good one. Did I stick to your fruit ciders? I don't like the really sweet ciders, like those fucking Swedish ones, Recorderlig, and the knockoffs of Recorderlig. They just taste like cordial and they're too sugary. But there's a couple of, obviously there are good ciders, and it's, the spectrum of what is a cider is pretty broad, and so you can get something, from the dry to the sweet. I prefer sort of like the middle draft, and I'll lean towards sweet more than dry. I don't really like the dry ones, but found some really good Australian ciders. There's some great Australian ciders. One that's made just outside of Melbourne, past Geelong on the Bellarine Peninsula. It's called Flying Brick. They have a black cockatoo as their logo. But they, at the place where they make it, did you call it a cidery? Because I think it was a winery first. They grew grapes, and then cider became popular, and they started brewing cider. And but they have like a restaurant. You can try out their ciders on tap. You can get a sampler, and the food's pretty good too. Often, for a dirty weekend away with Mrs. Angry, that's one of the places we'll go. Sort of out the Bellarine Peninsula, find a bed and breakfast, and we'll go to the Flying Brick Cidery and have a meal and some cider there. It's very nice, and yeah, you get it in some independent bottle shops. You don't get it in the big bottle shops. Some of the independent ones, Flying Brick, draft or sweet. Again, dry if you like dry. They do dry, draft, and sweet. I sort of defer to the draft. I'd probably have the sweet before I'd have the dry. But yeah. You're really disowning me because I don't like ginger ale or coffee. And it is true, Roxanne, I do mix booze with candy, but just for the exotic flavors. Like I've got two up there. There's a blue one and a red one. Blue is peppermint vodka, and the red is chili rum. But yes. Emperor Cigar, that's definitely me. Go on a dirty weekend with Mrs. Angry. We love getting away. We've found a few places. There's a place up in Lakes Entrance that we went to a couple of times. Like I said, there's this place out in the Bellarine Peninsula. We found this place that was sort of, it's not right up in the snowfields, but it was in the high country. And really nice places. Definitely giggity time. You want me to enter politics? Yes. Well, dickhead who we were talking about caused waves by wanting the white Australia policy and looking for a final solution for foreigners. I'd cause waves by just getting up and going, wow, you're all cunts. I hate you. I don't hate all. So like I said, because in the responses to this Fraser Anning speech, there's some good ones. Fucking Penny Wong knocked it out of the park. I feel pretty confident in saying Penny Wong is probably my favourite Australian politician. She's scary. I would not like to get on the wrong side of Penny Wong, and I think some of her political opponents have learned that to their detriment. But when Penny Wong gives you the eyeball and looks at you with disdain, it's like, whoa, okay, damn. Line Spider. Yes, it is bizarre that the guy uses core Nazi ideology and then gets upset at people saying he's talking like a Nazi. You're not the only one who talks about Penny Wong being PM, but I wouldn't wish that on her. That would be so brutal. Look at what happened to Julia Gillard. Now, Julia Gillard was flawed without a doubt, and the government she led was flawed without a doubt, but under really trying circumstances, she made major achievements, and she was under constant attack, constant barrage. And as she said herself in her farewell speech, the sexism wasn't everything, but it wasn't nothing. And I personally heard diehard Labor unionists griping about having a female prime minister and going, I'm not going to have some fucking bitch tell me what to do. That shit was real. And when you see the hatred and bile that was poured upon Julia Gillard completely unreasonably, then try to imagine what would happen if we had an Asian lesbian prime minister. I still think she's definitely my favourite politician in Australia, but I wouldn't wish the prime ministership on her, because when you see what was piled on Julia Gillard, just imagine how much more it would extreme it would be if we had an Asian lesbian prime minister. And it's just, we don't deserve her. She doesn't deserve what would happen to her. And we as a people don't deserve her. I just like watching her occasionally tear her opponents to pieces. Like, you fucking step out of line with her and she will go you. And yeah, as you say, Lion Spider, she's on top of everything else very intelligent and she's very eloquent and she will fucking tear people apart who cross her. That's not a bad parallel, the heretic of Ocasio-Cortez. I think Penny Wong is considerably older than Ocasio-Cortez. And I actually really look forward to seeing what Ocasio-Cortez does in the US. She's at the start of what obviously could be a very long career. She could be a very positive sign of change. She might flare out and disappear. She might be a one-off. I still have enough idealism to think it would be nice if she was an indicator of things to come. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. Oh, Emperor Seagull. No, look, people on the progressive side of politics do terrible things. I will not disagree with you at all on that. And I'm not one of those people who's so tied to an ideology that I won't attack someone who has a similar ideology to me, because you've got to protect your own team. No, if someone is an asshole, even if I agree with them on a lot of things, I want to call out. I was actually thinking about this today, like the nightmare that is President Trump. Could there be, you know, like an equivalent? And I thought the one who really sprang to mind for me was the comedian Bill Maher. He's like, you know, he's a populist. His position on a lot of topics is very similar to mine. But he's a fucking horrible person. I think he's awful. He's an awful, gross creep for basically all the exact same reasons. Trump is an awful, gross creep. He's a narcissist, a liar, a misogynist, and a racist. And but you know, like, he's a populist, and his speaking points on a lot of topics is very similar to my views on a lot of topics. But he'd be awful. He'd be absolutely awful. But you get people going, yeah, Bill Maher, he's awesome. He's not awesome. He's awful. Why'd you do that, Mimsy? Honestly. Like, Mimsy won't come up and be with us, but she just, like, opened the door here. Just hang on a sec. Ugh. Rude cat. She's so rude. I don't know why Mimsy's so rude. She wouldn't join in. It was really funny, you know, when there's been some conservatives being, you know, censured in the media and in popular social media for saying something vile and appalling, and some right wingers decided to go after Bill Maher. Well, Bill Maher said this awful thing. Oh, we should get him to. Oh, that's right. It was the last one was when Roseanne got taken off the air for her blatant, vile racism, and they said like, oh, well, Bill Maher said an awful thing. He should be taken off the air. And I was like, no, not Bill Maher. Don't take Bill Maher off the air. Bill Maher, oh no, that'd be awful if he was held to account for the hideous shit he said. It's like, fuck no, Bill Maher's garbage. Catherine, I wasn't talking to my son. I was talking to my cat. Yeah, Biore, like I said, it's not that I haven't found things he said funny. And in fact, his position on a lot of topics is very similar to my position on a lot of topics. But he is a fucking awful person. He's fucking terrible. Timothy, any Nazis pissing you off? No, absolutely troll-free this evening. I know it's like the last 10 minutes now, and we might be tempting fate. Yeah, troll-free. Oh, no, feeling. That's the mildest thing that he said. It's just like he's just generally, he's very condescending, very full of himself, and he basically commits all the cardinal sins of white, small L liberal, thinking his insular view of the world is all encompassing and an absolute truth to everyone. I mean, I try. I mean, obviously, I'm obviously, an egotistical loudmouth, but I try to listen to other people. Like particularly on Twitter, I follow a bunch of people from very different lives to me. They're in different countries. Might be like Black American activists, might be Muslims, from all over the world. And most of the time, I just try to listen to these people, not pipe up and go like, "Hey, that thing you said, my particular wonderful worldly white person insight on that thing you raised is." I try not to do that. I literally just try to listen, and I definitely don't always agree with what they say, but I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to listen to the experience of people whose life experience is really different to mine, and I'm trying to learn from them. Not force them to educate me. Not do that thing where people go, "Oh, well, tell me, educate me, tell me." It's like, no, no, no. I want to hear what these people say and try to take something from that and try not to make it about me. Oh, yes, Timothy, that's a downer. The Catholic Church in Pennsylvania. Yes, yes. An investigation revealed that over decades, at least was it 300 Catholic priests sexually assaulted hundreds and hundreds of children? It's fucking awful. Absolutely fucking awful, and not isolated. It is like the default thing, as we've seen around the world. The Catholic Church, particularly, and other institutions generally, have had terrible problems with sexual abuse in their ranks, and their default position has been to try to protect their own reputation, and they protect the priests that are committing the assaults and the abuse, and discredit the victims of the abuse and try and pretend it's not happening. And it's a worldwide problem, and it's fucking terrible. Well, I mean, we saw how widespread it was in Australia when there was the Royal Commission into abuse from the big institutions. It is a worldwide problem. It's terrible. Yeah, well, Lion Spider, if they were anyone but the Catholic Church, they would be a criminal organisation, obviously. Bureau is a condescending. Is Bill Maher a PETA supporter? Yeah, PETA shit me. Again, this is a classic thing. It's like, it's in the abstract, a lot of the positions people for ethical treatment of animals take, a lot of the positions they take, I empathize with or agree with. But they're complete fucking dickholes about it. And I'm like, well, I don't get why you have to be such dicks about it. Oh my God. Sorry, Feeling Stealer. I just read that one. He said there was one of the incidents was a priest who left the priesthood but asked them for a reference for a job at Disney World, and they gave it. And they knew he was an abuser. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jesus. That's terrible. Yeah. Yeah, it's just institutions generally, whether it's political institutions around the world, it's religious institutions, it's educational institutions, it's charitable institutions. We just keep seeing again and again people who get abuse these positions of power. It's really fucking sickening. Oh, well, Jesus, can we finish on a bit more of an up note? We've only got 10 minutes to go. Yeah, let's not finish talking about child abuse. That's such a downer. Hey, who's in Australia? Who's going to go to VidCon at the end of the month? I made some enchiladas for dinner, and a bit of enchilada meat that was stuck between my teeth just came loose. Yes. So, yeah, if you're in Australia, VidCon's coming up in Melbourne at the end of the month. That'll be fun. It was fun last year, and I think it'll be bigger this year. Quite looking forward to that. That'll be fun. That's an up thing to talk about, Lion Spider. The Queen movie. That could be good. I'm very interested with how they've done the trailers. I'll be interested to see what that movie is like. Well, the other movies that I want to see, like that are less big name. I don't think there are any big name movies I want to see for the rest of the year. But there's an American one called Sorry to Bother You that I've heard good things about. There's one guy who got famous on YouTube, Bo Burnham, wrote and directed a movie called Eighth Grade that had good stuff. Oh, Fingers, yeah, I want to see Upgrade. I missed it in the cinemas. When it comes out on video, I'll try and see it. Upgrade looked good. Yeah, I think you're right, Tunde. As we want a cinema with a good sound system for the Queen movie to sing along. I did like the first trailer in particular. Did a really good mashup of Queen songs. Was still in the second trailer too, but it was less upfront in the second trailer. Timothy, I haven't played God of War yet, but I asked the interwebs the other day because there's a sale in the gaming shops, and two that I'd been interested in that were on sale were God of War and Far Cry 5. And I said, look, okay, recently I've enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5, Breath of the Wild, Yakuza 0. So which of these would be the right one to get, Far Cry 5 or God of War? And universally, people, like so many people just went God of War. So I think I'm going to get God of War and get into that soonish. Actually, right now could be a good time to get into it. Yes. Yes, Catherine, here's the bit where the operatic section comes in. It's interesting, Remy Malek playing Freddie Mercury. Doesn't really look like Freddie Mercury, but they've got him, you know, sort of giving up a good vibe. But I was very interested. The casting of the other members of Queen seemed really good. They really seemed to look like the other members of Queen. Empress, see, I hadn't played games that much recently, but yeah, in the last 6, 8 months, I've played Grand Theft Auto 5, Breath of the Wild, and Yakuza 0. And it's really, Timothy, do you want to borrow your copy of God of War? What platform do you have it on? It's like PS4? I've got a PS4. Hey, Logan Paul, oh my God, dude, you're here in like the last 5 minutes. You usually come in earlier. Like, I'm literally about to go. I got excited. I heard a version of Diablo 3 was going to be released for the Switch. I will probably get that. Diablo 2 is one of my all-time favorite games. Now, I know there were a lot of problems with Diablo 3 when it first came out, but I feel like they kind of ironed them out. And if it comes out on Switch, that's a couple of years after it first came out. I feel like it might be a really good version of Diablo. So Diablo 3 on the Switch, I may well end up getting. I'm hurt. You forgot about me. I'm critically hurt by that I'm not the center of your universe. I will live. I will live. You have your own life and don't spend it all thinking. God of War's only PS4. Okay, there you go. See, dude, I'm not a gamer. I'm not a hardcore gamer. So I didn't know it was only PS4. I thought it was for PC as well. But anyway, borrow your copy of God of War. Where you're going to send it? You send it to the Angry Mailbox. I wouldn't say no, dude. But yeah. Logan Fuller, don't get kinky. We get enough of that from Celtic King. The weird stuff usually comes from Celtic King, but that's okay. Anyway, like, I am literally gonna go because it's just coming up on 10 o'clock. So I will once again thank you, wonderful people, for joining me. Had a most enjoyable evening, as per usual, spending time with you. So I hope you're all looking after yourselves. I hope to see you again soon. I think I'll do a really ranty video tomorrow about how cooked Australian politics is, and Mr. Fucking Final Solution will feature front and center. But yeah, it's a Friday night, you know, might have a few drinks and just really cut loose. Okay, you're going to pass out, Catherine. I am too. I'm going to go to bed anyway. Okay, take care, everyone. I hope you all look after yourselves and hope to see you again soon. But for now, we'll say farewell, look after yourselves, and bye now. And I click the off button. I assume I'm gone. I'm never